Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Unraveling Politics. On this show, I discuss the political news of the day, and I provide my analysis in a way that people can understand. So, if you are not aware, there is a presidential debate coming up in a couple of days. It will be on Thursday, the 27th of June, if I remember correctly. And that is going to be the earliest debate we've had for presidential debate in a long time. Usually they happen in the fall, and this one's going to be in the summer. Not entirely sure why. Biden is at Camp David in Maryland, and Trump, meanwhile, has not been holding any debate prep. Trump has been signaled he's going to make age an issue of the campaign. Biden has done the same. Trump, as I said, is not doing any mock debates at all. He also did acknowledge, though, that Biden is a good debater and that he killed Paul Ryan in 2012. So the Trump team is ready for that. During the debate, Trump will get the last word, but Biden will be on the right side of the podium, as he was in right side of the stage, as he was in 2020. And RFK, as I said, or if I didn't say already, will not be present. There will be no audience. There will be no open microphones. So that means when one candidate is talking, the other microphone will be turned off, and they will be standing for 90 minutes. There will be ad breaks, though. In May of 2024, the Biden and Trump campaign raised a lot of money. Biden and the DNC pulled in $85 million. Trump and the RNC pulled in $141 million. And as I said, it will be held on June 27th. It will be hosted by CNN at 8 p.m. So that's the big news of the week. I will definitely in the next episode be covering what happened at the debate. Also, the Trump campaign or Trump legal team is challenging special counsel Jack Smith's case to prosecute the January 6th case as well as the classified documents one. The Trump campaign is accusing Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, of setting up a shadow government to prosecute him, and this may delay a trial even further. So I would be very skeptical if this case goes to trial before the election. I think the chances are pretty much zero. So another thing I wanted to discuss was the divisions growing in the Democratic Party. I heard at the beginning of the week, haven't heard much recently toward the end of last week, that Pelosi has defied the leadership and wishes that Benjamin Netanyahu will not come to speak to Congress in July. Rep. Hank Johnson, who's a Democrat from Georgia, noted that Nancy Pelosi is very strategic in everything that she does, and that she's very discreet in everything she does, and that she must be expressing what a lot of members feel. She did not criticize Jeffries or Schumer, whom she has close ties with, but they were simply endorsing the draft that Johnson had created, Johnson being the speaker. So Nancy Pelosi wishes that that Benjamin Netanyahu was not coming. He did speak. Benjamin Netanyahu did come in 2015 and spoke when John Boehner was speaker. So they're showing that there are some divisions within the party. And Nancy Pelosi has to walk a very fine line here because she's not the leader anymore. She was the leader for 20 years, but she needs to kind of step aside and let the next generation take over. So it's very difficult when you're a former leader and you're saying things because you could be undermining the current leadership. So that's something that we're going to have to pay attention to. I wouldn't be surprised if many, many Democrats do not show up to the address. Speaking of Israel, all I have to say this week is that there has been increasing talks about a war with Hezbollah, who is a paramilitary group who has been basically running Lebanon, north of Israel. Missiles have been exchanged between Hezbollah and the IDF every day, almost every day, since October the 7th. So that is something that is a war that might continue to spread. There's a worry that it's going to spread to Cyprus, which is a member of the EU. Cyprus, if I remember, is not a member of NATO, but lots of the people in the EU are members of NATO, so that could further drag us into the conflict. Benjamin Netanyahu obviously wants the war to go on as long as possible because for as long as the war is going, he can say the security situation is too poor to be able to hold new elections. So he's going to try and hang on to power as long as he can. And the last thing I want to discuss, it was a pretty light week this week, is some polling that is going on. Not overall polling, because actually it's not the last thing I want to talk about, but this is the major thing I want to talk about. It's not overall polling, because we discussed enough of that already. This is more specific. Overall, according to Pew Research, if I have that correctly, yes, Pew, and this came out on May 23rd, so it's only about a month old. And Pew is a very reliable source. I trust pretty much everything they put out. 23% have said the economy is in good or excellent shape, which is down from 28% in January. So that's just outside the margin of error. But it's up from 19% in April of 2023. According to Pew, here are the problems that face the nation. Oh, I can put this in the description, the article, so that you could take a further look if anyone is interested. Problems facing the nation. The top one is overall is inflation. 62% of Americans overall say inflation is a top issue. 80% of them are Republicans, 46% are Democrats. So Republicans are more concerned about inflation than Democrats. The next issue is the ability of the two parties to work together. That's 60% of all Americans are worried about that. The amount split between Democrat and Republicans is pretty even. 63% of Democrats, 57% of Republicans. The second issue is 57%, and that's healthcare affordability. That's more among Democrats than Republicans. Drug addiction is 55%, which is pretty split between Democrats and Republicans. 50% of Democrats are worried about drug addiction, 60% of Republicans are. Budget deficit. So 53% of Americans are worried about the budget deficit. 35% of Democrats are worried about it. 71% of Republicans. Now let me put my community note in here. Whenever a Republican is president, usually Republicans are not worried about the deficit. So if Trump comes back in, you will see these numbers change dramatically. I can guarantee that. Illegal immigration, 51% of Americans are concerned. And 27% of Democrats, 78% of Republicans. Overall, what I gathered was that the Republicans are more likely to say the economy was good when Trump was president and less likely now. Democrats are about the same as during the Trump years. They're saying the economy is better. But get this. 40% of Republicans, 41% of independents, and 44% of Democrats say their personal finances are in good or excellent shape. Meanwhile, if you remember what I said earlier, 23% say the economy was in good or excellent shape. So you have 20%, you have the difference between 23 and about 42 is saying, the gap is about 20%, is saying that the economy is bad, but the personal finances are in good shape. That is so bizarre. And I think a lot of economists have noticed this and are wondering why that is. Overall, inflation is a very big problem, quote unquote. In 2024, 80% of Republicans say that, 46% of Democrats, and 62% of independents. Independents, such as myself, are always the big wild card. Usually, independents will sway elections. So the fact that independents are not on Biden's side as much should be a concern for him. And I will admit, the more and more I learn about the state of the country, including the polling and the economy overall, the less and less likely I believe that this administration will be reelected. I still would say that it's most likely. However, I'm not as confident as I was even just a few months ago. The trend is most important because polls are just a snapshot in time. The trends are, the things that are moving in the right direction are healthcare, believe it or not, healthcare affordability and racism. Throw that in there. Things that have been flat are violent crime, except among Republicans, and climate change. And things that have been moving in the wrong direction are the economy and illegal immigration. So that's not a good thing. That is some polling that I definitely want to keep in mind. If I see anything more from Pew, I will bring it to all of your attention. But for now, if I was on the Biden camp, I would be becoming more and more concerned of a Trump victory. And speaking of victory, if there's a Biden victory, Tim Scott has stood by the last decision, and Marco Rubio has dodged questions, even though he did certify. And at the same time, in the last election, 147 House Republicans and Senate Republicans voted against certifying the election in at least one state. So that probably just reduced Tim Scott's chance of being vice president. That makes me think it's going to be Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio has dodged questions. Tim Scott has said he stands by the decision, so that's going to put him at contrast with Trump. You think the media is constantly going to be asking, so you don't think the election should have been certified, but your running mate voted to certify it and stands by that decision. So that's going to be tough that would be tough for Scott and Trump to reconcile. There's two more things I want to mention. The Senate has rejected a chance to ban bump stocks, and this would have had trouble passing in the House, so this would have really had no chance of becoming law. They tried to do it via unanimous consent, and it was rejected by Pete Ricketts, a Republican from Nebraska, and it had no support from Lindsey Graham, who was from South Carolina. However, even John Cornyn of Texas was open to it, and he's from Texas. Pete Ricketts was concerned that this would ban as many firearms as possible. So as usual with the last 10 to 15 years, there has been no progress on the fight against gun violence, at least on a congressional level. So not much new to say there. Lastly, this was something that was brought to my attention by Harry Ensign on CNN. Biden's support among black voters is 70% as of right now, down from 86%, while Trump has gone from 7% to 21%. I will admit that this is skeptical. I'm very skeptical of this because Trump has not done much to pull in support from black voters. I mean, Biden has definitely shed it by continuing to call them victims and everything like that. But I would remain deeply skeptical that Trump has pulled in attention from black voters. And even if he has pulled their support and attention, will it stay? Harry Ensign believes that it will. I am skeptical. I do think that a lot of them in the end are not going to vote for Trump. Usually black women vote for Democrats. Black men usually are a little bit more toward Republicans, but it's not much. So I would be highly skeptical of this. If this is true, then Biden's chance of re-election drops significantly because he needs as much of the support from minorities as possible, especially considering he has a black vice president. Anyway, that is all I have to say today. Thank you for tuning in. Our next episode on July 1st will be about the debate, and then after that, I have some special episodes that I've already recorded that will be about the candidates on the issues they stand on. So those are going to be the episodes I'd like to upload in July, because July is going to be a bit more of a slow month. We will have the Trump sentencing as well as the Republican convention, but other than that, July will probably be a bit of a slower month, as will August. So those are some episodes I have planned coming up the pipe. So I cannot wait to see what happens at the debate. I really hope you tune in to see what happens. If you like the show, please leave it a 5-star rating on whatever platform that you listen on. And thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.